Hello and welcome to Daily News Simplified, an answer to what, why and how of newspaper reading. Today we will discuss the articles displayed on the screen from the Delhi edition of the Hindu newspaper dated 16th April 2019. So let us start our discussion. Now this article on page number 13 is related to the analysis of recent trade related statistics for the year 2018 and 19. And these statistics have been released by the Ministry of Commerce and Industry. So this shall form a part of the preliminary examination under the topic economic development. So in this article, let us try to understand what are the key highlights of these statistics which have been released by the Ministry of Commerce and Industry. And also we will try to understand certain trends related to the exports and imports in India, which can be important for us from preliminary examination point of view. So these statistics highlight that the export of goods in the year 2018 and 19 has hit a new high of $331 billion. Previously, the highest amount that India had exported was around $314 billion, which was way back in 2013 and 14. On the other hand, the imports in the year 2018 and 19 grew by 8.99% to about $507 billion. And the trade deficit in the year 2018 and 19 has increased to $176 billion, which was only about $162 billion in the year 2017 and 18. However, the trade deficit in the month of March 2019 as compared to March 2018 has reduced to $10.89 billion as compared to $13.51 billion in March 2018. So particularly this month has shown good increase in exports as compared to imports. However, overall in the year 2018 and 19, the trade deficit has increased, and that is, it has increased to amount $176 billion as compared to $162 billion in the year 2017 and 18. Now after this, let us look at some of the sectors which have shown growth or decline in the exports as well as the imports. So now the sector which contributes to the highest number of exports is the petroleum products sector. And it contributes about 20.4% of the total exports from India. Now this share of the petroleum products in the exports has reduced from 20.4% in the year 2013 and 14 to 14.8% in the year 2018 and 19. So this shows that although the petroleum products have the highest share in the exports from India, their share has reduced from 20.4% to 14.8%. And these trends are important for us from exam point of view. Further, as far as imports are concerned, crude petroleum has the highest share in the imports in India. And the share of crude petroleum in the imports was about 31.5% in the year 2013 and 14. However, its share has now reduced to about 22.5% as compared to 2013 and 14. So these statistics show that the share of petroleum products in the exports have declined as compared to 2013 and 14. Secondly, the share of crude petroleum in the imports has also declined from 2013 to 2018. As far as the country which receives the highest exports from India is concerned, it is the United States which receives about 12.5% of the total exports from India. And this was the data in the year 2013 and 14. However, the exports to United States have now increased to about 16% in the year 2018 and 19 as compared to 2013 and 14. Regarding imports, China has the highest share. And regarding imports, the China share in the imports in India was about 11.6% in the year 2013 and 14. Now this share of China in the total imports in India has increased to about 13.9% in the year 2018 and 19. So the important conclusions are that America is the destination which receives highest exports from India. Secondly, the exports to United States from India have increased from the year 2013 to 2018 and 19. Regarding imports, India receives highest amount of imports from China, and it was about 11.6% in the year 2013. And this share of China in the total Indian imports has increased from 11.6% to around 13% in the year 2018 and 19. So share of China in the total imports in India has increased. So these are few statistics which can be important for us from the exam point of view. Now, if you look at the question that was asked in the 2018 regarding the trends of imports and exports, there was a question which read, consider the following statements. And the first statement read, the quantity of imported edible oils is more than the domestic production of edible oils in the last 5 years. Now, this statement is correct because although India is producing a huge amount of edible oils, it is not enough for domestic consumption because of the high level of population. And that is why India has to depend on imports of edible oil. However, the second statement that reads that the government does not impose any customs duty on all the imported oils as a special case is incorrect. So the correct answer here was A, that is one only. So similarly, you should try this question from your preliminary examination point of view, and the answer for this question will be displayed after 5 seconds. So this question reads, consider the following statements. The first statement reads, share of petroleum products in total exports from India has declined for past 5 years. So as we have seen, it has declined in the past few years. The second statement reads, this decline is attributed to increased domestic demand and refinery shutdown for 2019 for refinery upgradation for shifting to Bharat 6 fuel standards. This statement is also correct because India is shifting to Bharat 6 fuel standards from the Bharat 4 fuel standards. And that is why a massive refinery upgradation is required. And that is why the total output from these domestic refineries will be reduced. So this is one of the factors for reduction in the exports of petroleum products. So here the correct answer is C, that is both the statements 1 and 2 are correct. And with this, let's move to the next article. Now this article on page number 13 highlights that the WPI or the wholesale price index has increased for the second consecutive month to about 3.18% in March 2019. And this WPI was about 2.93% in the month of February, and it was about 2.76% in the month of January in the year 2019. So this shows that the WPI has been increasing for past 3 months. Now, what are the reasons for this increase in wholesale price index? So this increase in the wholesale price index has been attributed to increase in the prices of food products and the fuel component. So both these sectors have witnessed increase in prices, and due to this, the wholesale price index has witnessed an increase. So this will form a part of the preliminary examination syllabus under the topic economic development. And as we have discussed in a previous video that the 3 important indices for the Indian economy are the wholesale price index, the consumer price index, and the index for industrial production or the IIP. So you should be aware of the basics of all these 3 indices. So to understand the index of industrial production or the IIP, you should go through the DNS of 13th April 2019, and where we have discussed the details of the index of industrial production, its current base year, etc. And regarding the consumer price index and the wholesale price index and their comparison, you can go through the video of 13th December 2018. So a link for both these videos will be provided in today's DNS. So however, let us look at some of the key features which have been discussed in the DNS of 13 December 2018 regarding the consumer price index. So regarding the consumer price index, you should note that it is used to measure the rate of inflation in India, and it is used by the RBI as a measure of inflation. And you should note that the Monetary Policy Committee has set the target of 4% for inflation, and it allows a margin of plus minus 2%. So in worst case, the inflation should not go below 2% and not above 6%. Further, you should note that the Central Statistical Office under the Ministry of Statistics publishes this consumer price index. And this index has 3 variants, which include the consumer price index rural, CPI urban, and the CPI combined. Further, the categories included include food and beverages, pan, tobacco and intoxicants, clothing and footwear, housing, fuel and light, and miscellaneous. And regarding CPI rural, you should note that it does not include housing. Further, there is a difference between headline inflation and core inflation. And regarding headline inflation, it means that it includes all categories under the CPI. However, on the contrary, the core inflation excludes the volatile components, for example, the food and the fuel. This is because these 2 sectors witness the most fluctuations. That is, the food and fuel sector are very volatile. So the core inflation only reflects the prices of those products except the food and fuel sector. For more details, you can go through this video of 13 December 2018. Further, in the same DNS video of 13 December 2018, a comparison of the wholesale price index and the consumer price index has been provided. So the first question arises as to who publishes the wholesale price index and the consumer price index. So the wholesale price index is published by the Office of Economic Advisor under the Ministry of Commerce and Industry. However, the CPI is published by the Central Statistical Office under the Ministry of Statistics. Now, what are the categories that are included in the wholesale price index as well as the consumer price index? So in the WPI, there are primary articles, manufactured products and fuel and power. On the other hand, in the CPI, there are these categories which we have discussed in the last slide. Now, which sector has the highest weight? So in this regard, manufacturing products have the highest share in the wholesale price index. However, in the CPI, the food and beverages have the highest share. Thirdly, services are not included in the WPI, while services are included in the consumer price index. Another important feature is the base year for the calculation of WPI and CPI. And in this regard, the WPI has 2011 and 12 as the base year. However, for CPI, the base year is 2012. Both these indices are published monthly, and RBI uses CPI for its inflation targeting and does not use the wholesale price index. So these are few important points and can be important for us from exam point of view. So to understand three key important indices of the wholesale price index, the consumer price index and the index for industrial production, you should go through the videos of 13 December 2018 as well as the video of 13th April 2019. And with this, let's move to the next article. Now this article on page number 13 reads that the public sector enterprises will get 12 months to sell the non-core assets. Now in this regard, in February 2019, the Union Cabinet had approved the institutional framework for monetization of identified non-core assets of the central public sector enterprises. And according to this, the Department of Investment and Public Asset Management, or DIPAM, has come out with detailed guidelines for the monetization of these non-core assets of public sector enterprises. So this will form a part of the preliminary examination syllabus under the topic economic development. Now what is important here is to understand that what is meant by asset monetization, what are the core and the non-core assets of the central public sector enterprises, and also what is the institutional framework for asset monetization of the CPSEs. Also, what are the procedural guidelines for this asset monetization? So let us understand all these aspects one by one. Now, what is meant by the term asset monetization? So in this regard, it refers to selling of non-core and suboptimally utilized assets of the central public sector enterprises. And this monetization is mainly done in order to raise revenue and to efficiently manage the assets of the public sector enterprises. Now, what is meant by the term non-core or suboptimally utilized assets of the central public sector enterprises? Now, regarding the assets of the central public sector enterprises, they can be divided into operational assets, financial assets, and land and the buildings of these central public sector enterprises. The operational assets can further include the pipelines, mobile towers, etc., or the functional industrial plants. The financial assets can include equity shares, debt securities, etc. Now, normally what has been observed is that some of the assets of the public sector enterprises, for example, the land and the buildings, are not efficiently used, and these assets can be considered as non-core assets as they may not be integral to the efficient working of these public sector enterprises. So here it should be understood that the non-core assets like land and the buildings or the extra land and the buildings that are with the CPSEs might not be important for the efficient functioning of these central public sector enterprises. That is why these assets have been divided as the core assets and the non-core assets. And these core assets, for example, the operational assets like the industrial plants, pipelines, etc., and the financial assets like equity and debt are important for the efficient functioning of the central public sector enterprises. However, the non-core assets like extra or additional lands and buildings might not be important for the efficient functioning of these central public sector enterprises. And that is why the government of India has come up with a framework to identify and sell off these non-core assets. So let us understand what is the institutional framework for the asset monetization and what are the procedural guidelines for the asset monetization of central public sector enterprises. So the institutional framework for asset monetization includes the alternative mechanism, core group of secretaries on asset monetization, that is the CGAM, and the interministerial group. And this alternative mechanism includes the Union Finance Minister, Minister of Road and Transport Department, and also the Minister of concerned administrative ministry to which the central public sector enterprises belong. The core group of secretaries on asset monetization includes the Cabinet Secretary, who is the head of this group, and it includes the secretaries from those ministries to which the public sector enterprises belong and whose assets are being monetized. And the interministerial group consists of the Secretary of DIPAM or the Department of Investment and Public Asset Management, and again the secretaries of the relevant ministries to which the public sector enterprises belong. Now, what is the procedure for this asset monetization? So, in the first case, the alternative mechanism or this group approves the central public enterprises and their assets to be monetized based on the recommendations of the interministerial groups. Now, how these interministerial group or the CGAM recommends the asset monetization of a particular CPSEs. So, the IMG or the CGAM can recommend the monetization of CPSEs or the asset or the non-core asset monetization of the CPSEs based on the recommendation of either the Niti Aayog or on its own. And also the CGAM and the interministerial group recommend the value of these non-core assets. Now, what are the conditions imposed once the monetization of these non-core assets has been approved by the alternative mechanism? So, the conditions are that once the alternative mechanism approves the assets for monetization, it should be duly completed within 12 months. So, the asset monetization once approved should be completed within a period of 12 months. And the amount which is received by the government through the asset monetization will be counted as disinvestment proceeds. And if these central public enterprises fail to monetize the non-core assets within 12 months, the Finance Ministry has been empowered to restrict the budgetary allocations to these central public enterprises. So, in case the central public enterprises do not comply with this period of 12 months for the monetization of its non-core assets once they have been approved by the alternative mechanism, the Finance Ministry has the power to restrict the budgetary allocations to these central public sector enterprises. So, these are few aspects of the non-core asset monetization of the central public sector enterprises. And with this, let's move to the next article. Now, this article on page number 2 is related to the Nandhaur Wildlife Sanctuary of Uttarakhand. And it is in news because the forest officials from the Nandhaur Wildlife Sanctuary have asked that it should be designated as a tiger reserve because of increase in the population of tigers in this wildlife sanctuary. Now, this will be a part of preliminary examination syllabus under the topic Environment and Ecology. And if you go through the previous year questions, in the year 2018, a question was asked which reads, in which one of the following states is the Pakhoi Wildlife Sanctuary located? So generally in such kind of news, it is important to know the location of the wildlife sanctuaries. So in the question that was asked in 2018, the answer was that the Pakhoi Wildlife Sanctuary, which is also known as Pakke Wildlife Sanctuary, is located in Arunachal Pradesh. So similarly here you should also note that it is located in the state of Uttarakhand. One unique feature is that it is primarily a sal forest, which means that the sal trees are dominant in this wildlife sanctuary. And further, it has high density of tiger population, and that is why the officials have asked that it should be designated as a tiger reserve. So these are few important facts, and let's move to the next article. Now this article on page number 18 reads that the first 3D printed heart has human tissues and vessels. So this will form a part of the preliminary examination syllabus as well as mains examination syllabus. And in preliminary examination, it will fall under general science, and in mains examination, it will fall under science and technology, developments and their applications and effects in everyday life. If you go through the previous year questions, in the year 2013, in the mains examination, there was a question related to 3D printing technology. Further, in the year 2018, in the preliminary examination, there was a question related to 3D printing and its application. So in this article, let us try to understand what is meant by 3D printing and what are its important applications. However, in the today's description, you will be provided with the link of a video where you will understand the 3D printing more easily. Now, 3D printing is also known as additive manufacturing, and this is a process of making a three-dimensional solid objects from a digital file, which means that it uses a kind of printer which is already fed with a software and material. So based on the design which is created in the software, this printer now starts printing. So this 3D printer is used for creating 3D objects, and that is why it is known as 3D printing. And regarding this additive process or additive manufacturing, an object is created by laying down successive layers of material until the object is created. So in this type of manufacturing or production, an object is created layer by layer. So firstly, the bottommost layer will be placed. After that, the layer above that is placed. And ultimately, an object is created by placing these layers successively. So as you can see in this diagram, this object, which is a 3D object, has been created by putting the material layer by layer. So as you can see in this diagram, this rectangle represents one layer of this object. And the thickness of these layers can be decided according to the requirement. Now, this additive manufacturing or 3D printing is different from a previously known method known as the subtractive manufacturing. And this subtractive manufacturing is achieved by cutting out or hollowing out a piece of metal or plastic using a milling machine. So if you look at this diagram, this is an example of subtractive manufacturing, while this is an example of additive manufacturing. So what happens in subtractive manufacturing is that from a full metal piece or a plastic piece, a portion is carved out or cut. And that is how you create an object which has this hollow space. However, in case of additive manufacturing, the material will be fed in a 3D printer, and this 3D printer will create the object or manufacture the object layer by layer. So as you can see in this diagram, this object has been created by placing layers in a successive manner. Now in this case, because the metal was carved out of the original piece of iron or plastic, this is known as subtractive manufacturing because that portion has been subtracted. However, in case of additive manufacturing, no portion has been subtracted and all the layers have been placed successively to create an object. That is why it is known as additive, because it is created by the addition of layer by layer. To further understand the 3D printing, you can go through the link which has been provided in the description. Now this has various applications because it simplifies the manufacturing process by the use of a 3D printer. So it has application in the education fields, and the students can use it to materialize their ideas in a fast and affordable manner. Further, it can be used for rapid prototyping, which means that it can be used to create prototypes for original projects. For example, a builder can use it to create a prototype of his final project, and this can be done using the 3D printing process. Further, it also helps in rapid manufacturing, which means that the manufacturers can produce small or customized manufacturing by the use of 3D printing. Further, it has usage in the automotive industry because the industry can use it to create small parts which can be used in the whole automobile. And similarly, it has usage in aviation and aerospace engineering. Now, one important factor which was also asked in the preliminary of 2018 is the data processing. So in this regard, you should note that a multi-material voxel printing has now been invented. And this method enables the physical visualization of data sets which are associated with scientific imaging. So for example, as you can see, when the big data is used, a lot of graphs are produced, graphs or bar diagrams are produced. So these graphs can be converted into physical visualization by the use of 3D printing. Further, it can also be used for construction of houses. And in this line, a company has already started the construction of houses using the 3D printing technology. Architects are also using this technology to create models for their projects. It also has applications in consumer products. For example, it can be used to create furniture, lighting, or jewelry. In medical and dental application, it is specially used for implants or prosthetics, which are artificial organs which are transplanted in people. For example, if a person loses his hand, a prosthetic can be created by using 3D printing. And finally, food industry is also using this 3D printing technology. And you'll be surprised to know that even NASA is trying to get a pizza which is 3D printed in this space. Now this 3D printing has huge applications because it only uses software models, and the material through which the object has to be created can be fed into this printer. So it simplifies the manufacturing process, and that is why it has large scale application. So as you can see in this question in the 2018, it asked 3D printing has application in which of the following? So the first is preparation of confectionery items. So as we have read, it is used in food manufacturing. Secondly, manufacturing of bionic ears. Yes, it is used in artificial organs creation. Thirdly, it is used in automotive industry. Yes. Fourthly, reconstructive surgeries, which is also correct. And finally, it has uses in data processing technologies. So it has applications in all of them. And the answer is D, that is 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So in the description of today's video, you can find the link to a simple video which will explain the 3D printing. And also a link will be provided for various applications of the 3D printing. So you can go through them and understand them in detail. With this, let's move to the next article. Now these two articles on page number 1 are related to the Model Code of Conduct and the powers of election commissions under this Model Code of Conduct. So in the first case, the Election Commission has restrained two leaders from the political parties from electioneering for 48 and 72 hours respectively. And in the second news article, the Supreme Court has raised concerns over the inaction of the Election Commission of India against the candidates who have been involved in speeches and campaigning based on religion. And also these have been involved in hate speech. And in this, the Election Commission of India has said that it cannot derecognize or disqualify a person who is involved in the breaking of Model Code of Conduct or not following the Model Code of Conduct. So here it becomes important for us to understand the basics of Model Code of Conduct from our exam point of view. Now regarding the Model Code of Conduct, it has already been discussed in the DNS of 31st January 2019 by Navid sir in detail. So rather than repeating this Model Code of Conduct once again, you can go through the DNS of 31st January 2019 and a link will also be provided in the description box today. And it covers various aspects of the Model Code of Conduct as to if the Model Code of Conduct is legally binding or not and various other aspects. Further, in today's PDF, you will be provided with basics of the Model Code of Conduct as to how it has evolved and what are the key provisions under the Model Code of Conduct and does the Model Code of Conduct have a statutory backing or not, etc. So you can go through this PDF to understand the basics of MCC. And also you can go through this video of 31st January 2019 to understand the Model Code of Conduct. Now after today's discussion, you can try and answer these questions from a preliminary examination point of view. Answer for these questions will be displayed after 5 seconds. So the first question reads, consider the following statements. First statement reads, the crude oil has the largest share in import basket of India, while the petroleum products have highest share in the export basket of India. This statement is correct. Secondly, Europe has the largest share in India's exports. This is wrong because the USA has the highest share in India's exports. So the correct answer is A, that is 1 only. Second question reads, consider the following statements. The first statement reads, CPI and WPI are released by the Central Statistical Office, which is incorrect because only the CPI is released by the Central Statistical Office. The second statement reads, manufacturing products have the highest weight in WPI, which is a correct statement. So the correct answer is B, that is 2 only. Further, you should try and answer these questions and the answer for these questions will be displayed after 5 seconds. So the first question reads, the Nandhaur Wildlife Sanctuary is located in which of the following states? So as we have learned, it is located in the state of Uttarakhand. Second question reads, consider the following statements. 3D printing uses a process known as subtractive manufacturing, which is incorrect because 3D printing uses additive manufacturing. Second statement reads, building can be created using 3D printing, which is a correct statement because now the 3D printing also has usage in construction industry. So the correct answer here is B, that is 2 only. With this, we have come to the end of today's discussion. Now let's move on to the question for the day.